lightning strike back in 47 hit a walnut tree in Indiana in the middle of the field on the old home farm. 13 years before I was born, but my dad was there. He was just a boy, felt the thunder roll and the hell of a noise. First the crack, then the creaking groan. There's different ways for seeds to be sown. 13 years before I was born. He was in the barn, all of 11, in the year 47. It was 5 more years till he'd get that car, that old Model T that never went far. Well, the tree went down by the near sheep pen and tore the fence that the ewes were in. Dad walked out with a saw and a wire in the mud and the rain in his pocket plier. His pa said, "Boy, what'd you do today?" And my dad said, "Pa, I got caught in the rain, but the cows are fed. Got the eggs together and the big tree fell and there's wood together." Took him days to clear the limbs. He knew that job was all up to him. It was after school, he'd split in a stack. He didn't know then he'd get something back. Well, he got her down to one mighty log. At that point, he had to make a call. He dialed Bill Scarlett at the Auburn Mill and said, "I got a log, can you help me, Bill?" And they cut that log into many board feet, and Dad shoveled sawdust for about a week to pay the bill. And the job was done 13 years before I was born. And those boards were stacked and stored in the barn until the year they sold the family farm, and Dad counted the rings, 124. And when it comes to me, I can just remember an old stack of boards, all dark and weathered, how they lay behind an old parked car, that old Model T that never went far. We pumped the tires and they held air. We pulled the T out and the boards were there. And we washed the car and we brushed the boards, cut 13 years before I was born. And Dad said, "Let's move these boards one more time. They're staying here in this new shed of mine." I said, "Dad, can you spare me too?" I did not tell him what I was going to do. Yeah, the big tree fell on my grandpa's farm, and Dad saved the boards for what seemed so long, 13 years before I was born. Well, I drove those boards to a man named Bear near the Ohio River, south of here, and I told him the story about 13 years. He shook my hand, said, "I'll give you my best. I'll build a guitar." And I, like the rest, just look at that grain. You can hear the tone. From these walnut boards, so dark and long, we'll make a way to sing your dad this song. 13 years is really not so long. And did you ever stop and wonder at the sound of distant rolling thunder? The walnut boards on Grandpa's farm. 13 years before I was born. They cut those boards, and those boards sat in my grandpa's barn for 60 years. And finally, I figured out something to do with them. And they're in this guitar. made by a friend of ours, Clint Bear, in Madison, Indiana. The verse that did not make it into the song is the fact that about 5 years after the tree fell down, they were digging a drainage tile in one of the farm fields, and the backhoe hit something really hard. And Grandpa said, "Stop! You boys start digging," he said to my dad and one of my uncles. And they dug, and in 2 days they had brought up an entire mastodon skeleton out of that farm field in northern Indiana. What do you do with the mastodon skeleton? They offered it up to the Museum of Natural History in Chicago, and they said, "Thank you very much, but someone just gave us a woolly mammoth." So Grandpa said, "Put it in the barn!" And there it sat. And then I realized that on a guitar, you've got a saddle and a nut, preferably made out of some kind of bone. This is from Grandpa's mastodon. So the wood and the mastodon, which sat together in the barn, are together once again in the Bear guitar. Glad to be here on my porch of the cabin for Woodstock Wednesdays. Tim Grimm. And it is a beautiful, beautiful Indiana early evening here. Walk the beach, look for a sign, what to do, what to find. It's out of reach, it's out of light, a little hand to hold on tight. Here I saw everything, dragonflies and flowers in the spring. You had it all, a mother and a father, family and friends, and then a baby brother. You were named for the loveliest of trees and a luminous gem in the sea. We're all just a breath in this world. Close your eyes, let the mysteries unfurl, and you'll always be our girl, Laurel. You made us laugh, you made us sing, you were in love with everything. Your smile as big as the whole wide world, so much joy in one little girl. You made a mark, you wove a spell, every life you touched became a deeper well. It was a gift to feel your spark, oh how a child can open up our hearts. You were named for the loveliest of trees and a luminous gem in the sea. We're all just a breath in this world. Close your eyes, let the mysteries unfurl. You'll always be our girl, Laurel. Now you're a part of every living thing, and the clouds in the sky, and the bells we hear ring, and the waves on the beach, and the dogs jumping in, and the grateful strangers smile, and the strength to rise again. He came here on an ocean of blue, like a dream that was meant to come true. Say goodbye to the creepers and the moon. Say good night, sun. Good night, moon. You were name for the loveliest of trees and a luminous gem in the sea. We're all just a breath in this world. Close your eyes, let the mysteries unfurl. You'll always be our girl, Laurel Pearl. You'll always be our girl. We live in crazy times. I don't know what you've all been doing in the late winter, early spring, late spring, early summer, late summer. I've had a lot of time to think, a lot of time to work on this place, a lot of time to read, and I do a lot of writing and reading in the room behind me here in the old summer kitchen. And this is a song I wrote because if you can imagine right around the corner of this building, if you were to look over there, you'd see a row of trees, about 25 trees that have come up in the last few years. And this is a song about the books and the trees. It's called 25 Trees. Well, there's 25 trees on the side of the hill. They're coming in straight, taking their fill. They're filling in the space the big pine stood, claiming his son for their own wood. And I've got some time to sort things out. I pull a honeysuckle vine, read books on the shelf. There's one or two I've never read, and more than a dozen gonna read again. Like blue highways and the land remembers, black elk speaks and fire on the mountain, rural free and the contrary farmer, a home in the country and bound for glory. Irish folk tales as told by Yeats, a country here at nature's pace, the grapes of wrath and jayber crow, wilderness plots in the Ohio. It's just 25 feet to the 25 trees from the old bookshelf, and the birds and bees that fly between these words I love and land on the branches of the trees on the bluff. They all started living since I've been here. I've been watching them grow, keeping things clear like the wild rose we call the sticker bush and the grapevine that'll choke them good. They're coming up strong, they're making their stand. We'll share our lives on this piece of land, and they'll watch me as I watch them, and they're born to wrestle and bend in the wind. There's 5 pinned oaks and 5 wild cherries, 2 red buds and 1 mulberry, a black walnut and 2 sugar maples, a dogwood and a honey locust, 2 tulip poppers, a state tree, a chestnut, a sycamore and a beech, and 2 catalpas to round out things. They're a good old-fashioned tree. There's 25 trees on the side of the hill. They're coming in straight, taking their fill. They're filling in the space the big pine stood, they're claiming his son for their own wood. And I've got some time to sort things out. I pull the honeysuckle vine, read books on the shelf. There's 1 or 2 I've never read, and more than a dozen gonna read again. Like blue highways, land remembers, black elk speaks and fire on the mountain, rural free and the contrary farmer, home in the country bound for glory. Irish folk tales as told by Yeats, a country here at nature's pace, the grapes of wrath and the jayber crow, wilderness plots in the Ohio. It's just 25 feet from the 25 trees to the old bookshelf, and the birds and bees fly between these words I love and land on the branches of the trees on the bluff. They all started living since I've been here. I've been watching them grow, keeping things clear like the wild rose we call the sticker bush and the grapevine that'll choke them good. They're coming up strong and taking a stand. We'll share our lives on this piece of land, and they'll watch me 'cause I watch them, and they're born to rustle and bend in the wind. There's 5 pin oaks and 5 wild cherries, 2 red buds and 1 mulberry, a black walnut and 2 sugar maples, a dogwood and a honey locust, 2 tulip poplars, the state tree, a chestnut, a sycamore and a beech, and 2 catalpas to round out things. They're a good old-fashioned tree. 25 trees. Thank you so very much for being part of Woodstock Wednesdays. And please tune in Labor Day weekend, the 7th, 8th, and 9th, I believe, of September for Fox Valley Folk Festival, which will all be online. A wonderful group of musicians, and I'll be part of that program. Thanks so much.